My name is Henry McCorkle, Vice President of Membership and Marketing at Apple Accreditation. Thank you for joining us today as we explore how Apple Accreditation can support your center in its pursuit of excellence. During this session, we'll discuss the value of Apple Accreditation, what the process involves, and how it can make a tangible difference for your center, your staff, and the families that you serve. Before we get started, I just have a few housekeeping notes. Please note that today's session is being recorded for future use. Since the format of today's session is a webinar, as an attendee, you will not be visible or audible to anyone else on the call unless you are invited to present. And we do have a few presenters from current accredited schools that will be joining us later on in the presentation. If you have a question, we encourage you to type that question into the chat, and we look forward to addressing your questions later on in the presentation during the designated Q&A portion. With those housekeeping items out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to Apple Accreditation's president, Dr. Glenn Mort, who has a few words to share with you all. Dr. Mort?
Fantastic. Hello, and a very warm welcome to everyone that's attending this afternoon. As Henry mentioned, my name is Dr. Glenn Mort, and I have the privilege of being the president and CEO here at FACM and Apple. I've been involved in school accreditation for over 20 years. And like many of you, I began as an in-class school teacher, worked up to becoming a school director, and since then have worked in school accreditation and now finally joined FACM and Apple just a couple years ago. Like all of you, I am passionate about education and deeply committed to providing the best for all of the students entrusted to our care. Now, first, let me congratulate you on taking the initial step to have your school accredited. You know, there are approximately 8,000 early childhood centers and schools in our state, but only a little more than 20% of them are accredited. You should be commended for striving to be part of this elite group of schools. Apple accredited schools enjoy a unique public trust throughout our state and throughout our country. In other words, Apple accredited schools can be trusted by the public to be what they claim to be and to do what they claim to do. Whatever an Apple accredited school says about itself carries the sanction of all the stakeholders within your school and confidence of the professional community at large. This accreditation is an affirmation that your institution provides the quality of education the community expects and the educational world endorses. Apple accreditation is a means of demonstrating confidence in your institution's performance. I applaud your decision to embark on this exciting accreditation journey for you and your school. You will be part of a group of schools, and we will be here to support you every step of the way. You know, my personal hero, the great Walt Disney, once said, "All your dreams can come true if you have the courage to pursue them." I encourage you now to keep dreaming and to have the courage to pursue those dreams. We want you to keep building futures one student at a time. I look forward to seeing your school on our list of accredited schools very, very soon. Thank you again and welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Mort. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and share a bit more information with you about Apple Accreditation, including our process, our standards, and some of the benefits that you'll reap by becoming an Apple accredited school. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we've got some slides to accompany what we'll be talking through here. So let me just start by sharing that Apple Accreditation is a nationally recognized accreditation program. And we support early learning programs as well as schools serving students in grades K through 12 in achieving and maintaining the highest standards of quality. Established in 1999, Apple is the largest accrediting body in the state of Florida, with nearly 900 accredited programs. In order to become Apple accredited, there are several steps that a school must complete. But before I talk about the process itself, I think it's important for you to get oriented to Apple's standards for accreditation. So Apple accreditation is based on a comprehensive set of 5 standards. And these are the key areas that we'll go through now. So the first standard is foundation and philosophy. This standard is focused on the foundational documents that a school needs to be successful, including a mission, vision, core values, and a strategic plan, just to name a few. The second standard is titled Governance and Organization. And this standard is focused on how a program is led and organized. The third standard, Child Well-being and Physical Environment, is focused on whether the physical environment of a school is safe and provides children with the opportunity to grow and thrive. The fourth standard, Resources and Relationships, is focused on the importance of strong relationships within the early education community. And lastly, the fifth standard, Experiences and Learning, is focused on the curriculum and learning experiences provided by a program, as well as the role of educators in children's daily learning. So when taken together, these standards reflect the values and practices that drive quality education, and they ensure that any program is providing an effective learning environment. So now that we've touched on the standards, I'd like to walk you through the process itself. Up on the screen, you can see an infographic that summarizes the Apple accreditation process. And we'll go through each step of this process in more detail now. There are a few minimum eligibility requirements for a school to be able to pursue Apple accreditation. The first is that a school is licensed or has proof of license exemption and is in good standing with local regulatory authorities. The second is that a school serves children between the ages of 0 to age 5 at a minimum. If a school serves students that are between the ages of 0 and 5 and also serves students in grades K through 12, we can accredit both your early learning and K through 12 program if you so desire. A third minimum eligibility requirement is that a school must become a member of FACM. FACM stands for the Florida Association for Child Care Management, and FACM is the parent organization of Apple accreditation. The ability to pursue Apple accreditation is considered a benefit offered to members of FACM. To become a FACM member, all that one needs to do is go to our website and click on Join FACM Today. At this point, you'll be asked to enter in some basic information about your center, including your license capacity, your contact information, and upload a proof of your license or license exemption. You'll also be asked to pay a FACM membership fee. The exact amount of this fee ranges from $140 to $440, depending on your school's license capacity. Once the form is filled out and your fee is paid, your FACM membership is approved, and you'll be set up with a member hub where you'll be able to apply for Apple accreditation. So to submit an Apple accreditation application, you'll log into your member hub and you'll choose either a standard application or an expedited application. I'll talk a little bit more about the difference in just a minute. You'll also be asked to disclose any Class 1 licensing violations your center may have received in the past 2 years. and you'll be asked to pay a corresponding application fee. Before I move on, let's talk a little bit more about the difference between the standard and the expedited process. So the standard process is the most cost-effective pathway. This is ideal for programs that are new to Apple accreditation and for reaccrediting programs with at least 12 months before their accreditation expires. The total processing time for a standard application is up to 210 business days after a complete portfolio is submitted. The expedited pathway offers a faster processing timeline at a slightly higher cost. The expedited pathway is designed for new and reaccrediting programs that prefer a shorter portfolio review and verification visit timeframe. The expedited processing time is up to 90 business days from complete portfolio submission. Regardless of which pathway you choose, after you submit your application, you'll receive access to your self-study portfolio along with detailed instructions for completing it. You'll also be assigned an Apple Program Manager, who will be your primary point of contact during the remainder of the accreditation process. Your program manager is available to answer any questions that you may have and point you in the right direction as you're completing your portfolio. So let's talk a little bit about that portfolio. During this section of the process, you'll be taking a deep dive into each of Apple's 5 standards and evaluating your center's current performance in relation to these standards. You'll also be asked to upload specific documentation and evidence that corresponds to each of Apple accreditation standards and indicators. And you'll do this electronically through an online platform called OnePlace. Building and submitting a portfolio is the most intensive part of the Apple accreditation process, but we provide centers with a number of resources to assist, including a manual and a tutorial video. We also offer schools the opportunity to enroll in a program called Apple Accreditation Institute. Apple Accreditation Institute is a session of 4 classes intentionally designed to assist schools with building their self-study portfolio and preparing for their verification visit. By participating in Apple Accreditation Institute, individuals can earn 1.2 CEUs. So we're actually starting our next session of Apple Accreditation Institute this coming February, and registration is live for that now. So you can go directly to our website if this is of interest to you, or you may scan the QR code on the screen, and that will take you to the page to register. The fee is $1,000. That covers all of the costs associated with the Institute, and we feel that that is a true bargain for what you'll get out of this experience. Whether you choose to enroll in the Institute or not, once you've completed your portfolio, you'll submit it directly through OnePlace and pay the corresponding fee associated with that. The exact amount of that fee is dependent on your license capacity as a program and whether you chose the standard or expedited process. Once your portfolio has been submitted successfully and it's been successfully reviewed, the next step in the process is a verification visit. The verification visit is an on-site observation by an Apple Accreditation verifier to authenticate that the Apple Accreditation standards are being implemented. In most cases, the entire visit will take place during the course of 1 day. And in the month prior to visit scheduling, Apple Accreditation will work with the program to identify up to 3 blackout dates when the program's unable to host that visit. Prior to the visit, the school will receive a notification from Apple letting them know the week that the visit will occur. However, the school will not know the exact day the visit will take place during that week. Prior to the visit occurring, the verifier will review the school's portfolio materials and supporting documentation. And during the visit itself, they'll conduct a comprehensive on-site assessment of the facility, observing classrooms, staff interactions, health and safety practices, and compliance with accreditation standards. Interviews will be conducted with school leadership, teachers, and staff to gain insight into the school's operations. Before the verifier leaves the school, they'll review preliminary findings with school leadership, providing general insights, but not a final accreditation decision. The verifier will then submit a detailed visitation report to Apple Accreditation. Following the verification visit, a school will be placed on Apple's next viable commission meeting agenda. Apple Accreditation's commission meets monthly, and our commissioners are school leaders just like you, making this truly a peer review process. Each school pursuing accreditation will be presented to Apple's commission with their portfolio report, as well as their verification visit report. During the commission meeting itself, Apple's commissioners will review the reports and vote on a number of possible outcomes for each program. The best case scenario is that the commissioners will vote that a school be awarded accreditation in good standing. This means that for new programs, they'll be awarded a 3-year term of accreditation, and for schools going through a reaccreditation, they'll have a 5-year term of accreditation. Another possible outcome is that a school may be awarded accreditation with probation, which means that they'll be awarded a 3-year accreditation term upon successful completion of a program action plan and an unannounced second visit at the expense of the program. A third and less likely scenario is that a school may be denied accreditation. This might occur after a school has made a failed attempt at the accreditation process several times, or there is a severe health and safety issue that was noted during the program visit. Again, that's a very rare occurrence. So that is what the accreditation process looks like from start to finish. It's a lot of information, and we certainly don't expect you to memorize everything. We will provide you with a copy of this infographic after the call today. And of course, if you have any specific questions about any of this, we can absolutely schedule some time to go through your questions. But now that we've talked about the standards and the process, let's dive into some of the exciting benefits of becoming Apple accredited. To start, let's talk about some of the financial benefits. If your center is located in Florida, Apple Accreditation opens doors to the Gold Seal Quality Care Program. The Gold Seal program provides eligible centers with ad valorem tax relief, a sales tax exemption on educational supplies and materials, and an increase in reimbursement for subsidized care. Just imagine freeing up room in your budget to invest more in classroom materials or to enhance staff training. These savings directly benefit your center's bottom line, as well as your staff and students. Beyond the financial advantages, becoming Apple accredited also elevates your program quality. Being Apple accredited aligns your center with national and state standards and ensures you're in compliance with regulatory requirements. Accreditation goes above and beyond just compliance, however. Accreditation also boosts trust and credibility. Parents are more likely to choose an accredited center because it signals commitment to high standards. Just ask Amy, the owner of an Apple accredited center. After Amy's center achieved Apple accreditation, parents started mentioning it on tours. It actually became the reason they chose her center over others. Accreditation was no longer just a plaque on the wall. it led to increased enrollment and trust from Amy's community. And the benefits don't stop there. Apple Accreditation connects you with a network of fellow members, giving you exclusive access to resources, presentations, and information. One of the most unique benefits of being Apple accredited is that you receive updates from our full-time lobbyist working on behalf of early childhood centers across Florida and giving you a direct conduit to what is happening at the legislative level in Tallahassee. All Apple accredited schools also receive access to a comprehensive menu of employee insurance options that they can choose to opt into. Available lines of coverage include dental insurance, vision insurance, short-term and long-term disability, life insurance, accident insurance, just to name a few. This type of program is possible because of the collective strength of the Apple community, and it reflects our ongoing efforts to support schools' success in all aspects of their program. The last thing I want to mention is that as an Apple accredited school, you'll receive invitations to exclusive events. In just a few weeks, we have an event with early childhood leader and author Ellen M. Drolette, who will be leading a session on building a positive team. And I'll circle back to that session at the end of our presentation today. So there's a lot to like here, but you've heard enough from me at this point. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to some currently accredited schools that have gone through the Apple accreditation process themselves. These school leaders are going to introduce themselves and share a bit about their school, as well as talk about their experience with Apple. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Gabriella Carranza from Big Dreams Preschool in West Palm Beach. And in just a minute, Gabriella will be coming on and sharing a bit about her experience with Apple. So we'll just give Gabriella a minute to present to us.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Gabriella. How are you?
I'm doing well and excited to be here.
Wonderful. Well, I will turn it over to you and give you the opportunity to share a bit about your experience with Apple.
Perfect. So let me just start by what we were drawn by with Apple in itself. Big Dreams Preschool started about a year ago in September of 2024, and we knew that we wanted to have a great base and a great starting point, and we knew how prestigious the name of Apple was. So that was our first point. And we obviously had a lot of fears because being new, not having a great foundation, but the portfolio just really, really brings a roadmap into what you should be doing. So, for example, the 5 standards really go into the parent handbook and the staff handbook. And with all of that, it may seem, I feel like, tedious, but everything is so intentional that you get these little check marks of, okay, this is what I should be doing, and this is what I should be including. And because of those little steps and checklists, you really get to build that foundation that otherwise, without experience, you would not get. Or even if you've been in the field for many years, you might not be accredited. And this really just hones down on all the little details to protect you as a business, to keep things flowing, and to really just make yourself as an owner and as a school give out the best that you can. In regards to improvements that we've seen, our team definitely is super unified. It is efficient, organized, and everybody's focused on the same goal, that being to establish ourselves as the benchmark for preschools around us, to create a safe environment for our parents. They are extremely happy with us, with all the events we put on, with our team meetings as well for our parents. A little bit about our testimony. We were able to achieve Apple accreditation in September and of this year, 2025. And then in October, unfortunately, a school near us actually closed down, and we had over 30 to 40 kiddos come into our school basically in one day. And that's a lot for an administrative team and teachers to take on. But because we had just gotten our on-site visit done, our portfolio was finished, and we were Apple accredited, I felt that that was what took us to the next level, and we were able to take that on smoothly as much as we could. So I definitely think that prepped us for a big load to come in. We were already set, we were already prepped. Our team knew exactly what they should be doing day to day, and we thank Apple for that achievement. And finally, if I had any words of advice for anyone even considering Apple, like Dr. Glenn said, start today. If it's even just an idea, get that faculty membership today, because that one step is gonna lead to the next. And it is not as scary as it seems. I don't think Apple expects anybody to be perfect, just as the kiddos and ourselves aren't perfect. There's no right way to manage or have a business. I think that it's very individualized. Apple just gives you the tools and the keys to be successful, but they also understand how everybody runs their business differently and wants to achieve and serve their population. But take that first step. I really, really encourage you to don't let fear get in the way. And the Apple and Facom team are extremely, extremely graceful and kind. And I bothered them so many times with questions. Please go straight to the source. I kind of jumped around asking other providers around me how their process was. But take everybody's advice with a grain of salt, and just know that you're in your own time frame and timeline, but Apple's your main source, and they'll guide you through the steps.
Well, Gabriella, thank you so much for sharing your experience, and congratulations on getting some new students in your building. I know it's not always easy circumstances to have that happen that way, but as you said, you have a very strong foundation in place. So we're thankful that those students have ended up in a center like yours where they can really thrive. So once again, thank you for sharing your experience. And at this point, we're going to hear from another one of our accredited centers. So I'd like to introduce Miss Linda Root, director at Our Savior Lutheran in Plantation. And I'll just mention that Miss Root is a graduate of Apple Accreditation Institute. So she was a member of our first cohort of Apple Accreditation Institute schools. So I think that's just important to mention as we think about that experience. So we'll give Miss Root another minute to come on here, and we'll get to hear from her.
All right. Hello, everyone. I want to first say that our school serves the Plantation area. We have 18 months through 8th grade. We're not a large preschool. We have 57 children who are currently enrolled. We've been through many accreditations with Apple, and we've been doing this for quite some time. What was new for me was the use of the portfolio, the way it's online, and the Apple Accreditation Institute. And I think I want to talk about that most. That was a new initiative by Apple and Facom, and it really made a difference to us. I enrolled all of my lead preschool teachers, that was just 5, and myself, and we attended the sessions. It helps you really walk through the process of completing the portfolio and understanding clearly what's being asked at each standard that they talked about. One of the things I like about the Apple Accreditation Institute is there is not only where ours was led by Selena McNeely, who is fabulous, and there were other directors and other educators involved. And so we could ask questions, we could have clarity put in. It was the personal level of experience that I think made the difference. So if you were having a problem understanding what type of documentation or exactly what was being asked, you could get that clarity. You didn't feel like you were left in the dark. It made a huge difference. It also made a difference, I believe, to the quality of our program, as all of my lead teachers were being involved in this process at the Accreditation Institute. And so we were talking together both during that time but afterwards about what does that standard or what does that particular check mark mean to us. There were some things that we needed to add or improve in our handbook. There were some things they were asking that were like, oh, we don't remember looking at that in such detail before, and it made a difference to our program. We celebrated it in our community when we had our verification visit, and the center, scored very high. And I attribute that to my team, but also to the support of Apple and the accreditation team there. We're able to tell our families, as was mentioned online here, when we do tours, when we talk to prospective parents, pointing out that we're a gold seal rated school, that we have the Apple accreditation, really does build confidence. It helps them understand that we're committed to high standards, both in our facility, in our governance, in our curriculum, in our teaching, in each one of those areas. It's really important for families to understand that we're not compromising. One of the things I like about Apple accreditation is when you look at their standards, they really are more robust than some other places you could look. And so it holds us as a center to a higher standard. Just the ratios are excellent. And we're very serious about that. So when you're looking at where do you want to go for accreditation, I don't think there is a better choice than Apple. We did look at others, and we didn't find them as efficient, cost effective, or as robust. And so I recommend this. And the staff, as I said, is incredibly collaborative. I liked what the previous director said. Each center is unique. They recognize that you have your own way of maybe writing your handbook. They want you to note those points, but exactly how you execute them might be individualized. The portfolio that you do online, it's really simple to use, easy to put in information. It's the best that we've had over the years that we've been doing Apple accreditation. The one thing I would encourage is that if you look at the guidelines, all the standards, that you make sure each one of your preschool team has a copy as you begin the process, and then you go over it, you break it up so that different groups are really looking at, okay, what evidence do we have for this? You might have one person adding most of the evidence into the online portfolio, but your whole team can be collaborating on what's the evidence, how do we get those documents, what part of the handbook, what are our procedures in place that would support that. It really was streamlined and personalized. It was an excellent investment for our center to be a part of the Institute. I recommend it.
Miss Ruth, thank you very much. We really appreciate you sharing your perspective and especially hearing about your institute experience as well.
Thank you.
With that, we have one more panelist who's going to join us, and this is Elizabeth Moreno, director at Guadalupe Center, Inc., Immokalee High School. And we'll give Elizabeth just a minute to come on and join us here, and then we'll hear from her.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Elizabeth. So we have a total of 5 schools, and I'm the director at one of them. We've been around for many, many years. Our first school started back in the 1990s, way before I was born. And then over the past 5 years, we've opened up 4 more schools. So our first school was initially accredited by Apple, and now our other 4 schools, we got accredited this year. So over the past couple of years, we focused a lot on growing, but now we want to focus more on quality. Since we've opened up 5 schools now, we are trying to do everything uniform, making sure that we're all following the same handbook, making sure that we're doing everything throughout the centers the same. So we chose to pursue Apple accreditation because if it's our mission at Guadalupe Center, we're a family center program, and we want to provide the highest quality care possible, and to ensure that all of our schools are doing the same thing. Since we're all in the same community, parents they want to see the same thing going on in all the other centers. The accreditation process help us to strengthen our practices. We work together with all of the other 4 centers to ensure, we're all doing the same thing, sharing the handbooks, even sharing the evidence. We work together as a team, helped us build accountability and continue to earn the trust of the parents. It also supported our credibility as a center families can rely on every day in our community. Since completing the Apple accreditation process, we've seen a stronger consistency across our classrooms. Here at my school, we only have 3 classrooms, but, at our other schools, we have up to 18, 12 classrooms. We're all different sizes. So, we want to ensure that, through all of our schools, we're doing the same thing. So we've also, had better communication with families and a higher level of accountability with our team overall by doing the team meetings, the monthly team meetings. Some of our schools, if possible, we try to do even weekly meetings, go over, some like, for instance, like if we have any problems at one of the schools, see what's working out, what's not working out for the other ones, since we're all a little different. So we just want to ensure that we're doing everything across all of our schools. And overall, it just helped us to provide a clearer, more reliable, and higher quality care for our children and families. And lastly, my advice is to be prepared for hard work, but to know that it's completely worth it. The Apple accreditation process takes a lot of time. I want to say that 2 of our schools started initially, and then the other 2 joined. So the first 2 schools, it took us about a year to finish with all the evidence. Luckily, we did have a lot of it, so it was not like we had to work on it. But since we're a large organization, we do have different handbooks. We have like an after-school program. We have a tutor core program, which is for college students. So, from grabbing a handbook from different teams, we just had to focus on the early childhood part. And we had to come up with one just specifically for early childhood, since we serve also school age and also college students. And the Apple accreditation process, takes time, organization, and teamwork, but it pushes you to strengthen your system and truly reflect on your practice. The reward is huge: better quality, stronger accountability, and greater trust from families. It only improves your center, but it confirms the high standards you already aim to meet every day. Sometimes we do a lot of things that are already high quality, but we don't actually acknowledge it until we see that, like the evidence, and we're like, oh, we're already doing that. But aside from that, I think that's it.
Wonderful. Well, Elizabeth, thank you for sharing your experience and your perspective with attendees. I love what you said at the end: time, teamwork, and organization. I think that, if we can keep those 3 things in mind while going through the process, it really helps frame things very well. So once again, thank you. And at this point, we're going to turn it over to all of you to ask any questions that you may have. So while we get ready for our Q&A portion here, we've got a few more testimonials up on the screen from other schools that have gone through the process. But at this point, the floor is open to you to ask any questions that you may have. All right, we have a question here. Does a school have to be in business for a minimum amount of years to apply, or can a newly founded school apply for Apple accreditation? This is an excellent question. A school can apply for Apple accreditation as a newly founded school. However, the school must be in operation prior to applying, must actively have students enrolled, and have all licensure and be in good standing with local regulatory authorities. All right. We have a question here. Will we get support with organizing the portfolio? So we provide all schools with a number of resources as they're preparing for their portfolio submission. You'll receive a manual from us. You'll also get access to a video that you can refer back to when completing your portfolio. And again, you get assigned an Apple Program Manager who you can reach out to with any questions during the portfolio building process. So those are all great resources for you. I will say we're not going to do the work for you. We will point you in the right direction, but it's up to each program to actually go in and do the work of answering the questions and uploading the documentation for their portfolio submission. So thank you for that question. All right, we have another question here. What is the minimum score for a portfolio to be successful? Another great question. 85% is the minimum score that we have for portfolios. So that is the benchmark that we need all schools to exceed with their portfolio submission in order for them to move along to the next stage in the process. All right, we have a question here about fees. Do we pay the $1,000 all at once? So there's a couple fees that you'll pay at different stages of the process. So the first fee that you'll pay is the FACA membership fee. And again, that can range from $140 to $440, depending on the license capacity of your program. The second fee that you'll pay is an Apple application fee. And that can be either $400 for the standard process, or if you choose the expedited process, it would be $500. And then the third and final fee that you'll pay during the initial accreditation process is once you submit your portfolio. So there's a portfolio fee that amount is dependent on the license capacity of your center, as well as whether you chose the standard or the expedited process. So paying that fee will happen a little bit later on, again, once you submit that portfolio to us. So 3 payments at different stages of the process. All right. Here's a question. What happens if a center doesn't meet all the accreditation criteria during the verification? Is there a chance to improve and reapply? That's a great question. So if a center does not meet all of the criteria during a verification visit, the commission may determine that a school need to host a second visit in order to, improve in some areas. And they'll also be given the opportunity to complete an action plan where they'll be able to document, how they're strengthening those areas that were identified during the verification visit. Prior to the visit occurring, however, a school may submit a portfolio to us, and then during the review process, it may be determined that the portfolio, there are some areas that need to be strengthened. So at that point, schools have the opportunity to resubmit their portfolio to us, and there would be a second portfolio resubmission fee that would go along with that. But there are opportunities for feedback and improvement at each stage of the process. So again, with the portfolio, and then again with the verification visit as well. In an ideal world, there's no resubmission required for any of those steps, but it is a learning process and a process of growth, and occasionally, a school may need to resubmit a portfolio or host a second verification visit in order to demonstrate that they're meeting all of those standards. So again, great question. All right, how many years does Apple accreditation remain valid once awarded to a school? So for schools going through the process the first time, it's a 3-year term of accreditation. And then for schools that have already been accredited once and are going through reaccreditation, it would be a 5-year accreditation term. All right. Any other questions here? All right, I'm not seeing any additional questions coming in, so I'll go ahead and move us along. Earlier in the presentation, I mentioned that we have an event coming up. This is a virtual event that may be of interest to you. So on Thursday, December 4th, we're thrilled to welcome Ellen M. Drolette, author of Overcoming Teacher Burnout in Early Childhood Education, who will be with us to share some strategies to help strengthen your team culture, elevate staff morale, and build long-term commitment among teachers at your school. This event, if you'd like to attend, you can register for free by scanning the QR code on the screen. And this is a great opportunity to learn more about some of the offerings that are available to Apple accredited schools. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that registration for our 2026 conference is live. To ensure that you get access to our early bird conference registration rate, we encourage you to take the first step towards becoming Apple accredited by becoming a FACM member. And you can do that by scanning the QR code on the left side of your screen. Only FACM members have access to that early bird rate, which is the best rate for the conference. So becoming a FACM member, great first step, and that'll get you access to that rate. If you're not quite ready to join FACM yet, but you know that you want to attend the conference, you can actually scan the QR code on the right side of the screen, and you can select the non-member rate from the drop-down menu. So again, our conference is open to both FACM members and non-members, but the FACM members get the best rate for that. So we hope to see many of you next June. But in the meantime, we hope that this presentation has given you an understanding of the benefits of Apple accreditation and the steps involved. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact me directly. My contact information is up on the screen, and I'd be more than happy to schedule an individual call with any of you if any questions arise. So with that, we're excited to work with you and help your center thrive and achieve the highest standards of quality. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you. Take care.